Hello, my name is Dr. Cal, and I am actually from Egypt. I was born in Alexandria, Egypt, January 1st, 1996. I am the oldest of four kids. My dad died when I was 16 years old. And at that point, I had four sisters much younger than me, and then my mother and I, and no source of income and no future. So I was actually very good. I had a very high IQ to the point that I've had 2 years of pre-med school by the time I was 16 years old in Egypt. And if you are like superiorly intelligent and you really are, up there, you can take as much as 3 years in 1 year in Egypt between high school and college. When my father passed, I was 16 and I had no idea what I'm going to do next. I didn't have anybody really that would assist me, give me guidance, kind of help in any way. So I knew that I had to travel outside Egypt in order to take care of my mom and my first sister. Well, to travel where there was another, work, right? At the time, a soccer team coming to play a tournament here in Egypt. So I had some people to say, yeah, if you pay this much money, we'll be able to include you on the traveling group. We didn't have the money. My grandfather had saved all of his life, what equals to about $500. We didn't have any way to get money to pay these people and or the help with the visa and so on, or the airfare ticket. But we eventually got it together, and I came to the United States in 1989, October 10th, 1989, with the $450 that my grandfather gave to me that he had all of his life saving. I had no idea what I'm going to do next. I didn't have anybody here to come to. I just knew I had to take care of my family. Right? I knew I was going to be a doctor all along. I was already in pre-med, right? Then I arrived at Washington, D.C., and then I worked at different odd jobs. And I do not know why. Just because I worked at a restaurant previously, I was applying for any job that says they're looking for a chef. And I got fired from the first 3 jobs within hours because I'm not a chef. I don't know how to cook. So I went to a library one day and I said, listen, where do I want to become a doctor. Where is the closest school? How to go about this? And then the lady, she said, well, have you thought about becoming a chiropractor? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And she said, well, it's a type of doctor. And I personally enjoy going to mine, and I feel a lot better to the point that I'm really not needing many or much of the medical services. So without a clue, and I says, well, where's the closest chiropractic school that is not in a very cold weather? Because I was freezing in Washington, D.C. So they said, Atlanta, Georgia. I contacted the college here. Somehow they connected me with another professor there that was from Egypt. And he said, send me this document, this document, this document. And 2 weeks later, he said, well, you're overqualified. When would you like to start? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess I'm not sure. He said, what about how in 2 weeks from now? And I said, 2 weeks it is. I traveled to Atlanta to enter the chiropractic college. And to be frank, in the first couple of months, my English was not that great. It's a bit better now. So I did not really know enough about chiropractic. But then 2 months into it, I decided, hey, if I'm going to be a chiropractor, I'm going to be the damn best. I'm going to figure out what I need to do. I'm going to understand it from A to Z to the point that there will be no one better. But that is my life, right? I'm either going to give it 120% and do it right, or I'm not going to do it at all. I just will refuse to do anything that's mediocre, period. 2 months later, I decided to put 150% of me in to understand all this complicated English, medical words. And I focused on, in my opinion, what is really missing so much in the chiropractic world now, right? To me, when somebody says chiropractor, I said, that's somebody with an amazing hands. Somebody with tremendous amount of sensation to the hand. When you put your hand on a spine, on a body, you should be able to feel, know, and even see when you're really good at it. I worked on developing my hand skills and my ability to feel normal from abnormal. And I thought if I could put my hand on a lot of people, I'm going to become better, right? So I was very good in college. I graduated from chiropractic school. I finished bachelor and went to chiropractic school, finished it, and then I graduated. What I was told, one of the best chiropractic hands in the profession. I moved from here to Michigan, and it was the first job that anybody offered me when I graduated. And I worked for about a year. I was making $452 a week. And I was seeing a lot of people working very hard, 70 hours a week, give or take. And then 1 year on the dot, I sat down with the clinic director, the doctor at the time, and I said, hey, I really think I should get paid a bit more than that. I took care of my wife at the time. And his answer was no. So with no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow at that point, I said, well, I am out. I'm done. I left. I remember going home to my wife, who was just been married for a year or so, and she's full of all the uncertainty of a young French girl could have, right? And she said, what are we going to do next? I said, I have no idea, but I do know that when there is God, there is always solutions. There's always options. We can choose to look at life as complications, and issues and episodes and problems, or we can choose to look at it just another step. If I get through this, I would be that much better. So I then decided I am going to open my clinic. Well, I didn't have any money to open my clinic, but then after a month and a half of looking where I can work, I eventually came across one of my patients again. He said, Dr. Kal, I believe in you. I'm willing. He was an engineer. I said, I am willing to invest and open a clinic for you. But you are going to, for the rest of your life, give me 50% of what you'll make. Without me knowing enough, I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I'm making what I need to do is just make sure my 50% is more than $452, and we're good, right? So I worked, and my goal at the time was to see 1,000 patients a week. And I do not know why that was my goal, other than I've never heard of anyone being able to do it. So I said 1,000 visits a week. And I'm going to give myself 1 year to do it. I arrived at 1,000 visits a week 13 months later. People were coming from all over the United States to see this crazy Egyptian guy that still can't speak English, figuring out what kind of energy he has to draw people to drive 2 to 3 hours to see him. And before I know it, I was kind of famous. I don't really know why. I'm like, why all these people are here? But truly, I did that for 9 years. And then I decided I'm going to open more clinic, and more clinic, and more clinic, to the point that we've had 7 in total in Michigan. And then my wife hated the weather there, hated it. And she said, I can't do it. I can't. We decided to go back to Atlanta, where I met her. And I decided I'm going to do some consulting. I'm going to teach at chiropractic college, which is exactly what I did. And I was doing some consulting. People, half of the country already heard of me. And it was an easy thing for a year and a half. During the year and a half, we traveled, we had fun. But about a year into it, I was not happy. I realized that the money, the time that I had, the traveling, it did not fulfill me. It did not make me a whole. I was missing the very basic thing for me, which is seeing and treating patients. And I decided to trade my time back again and go back into doing the one thing that made me happy and I was really good at. So I decided to go back and open a clinic with the idea that I'm just going to see patients a couple of days a week, a few hours each. And before I know it, I was seeing a lot of people again, right? And then from that point on, in 2010 is where the idea of one integrated practice was multi-professional medical doctor integration together. I said, you know what, if I could just, I hated the fact that I wasn't able to talk to the patient. I thought it took more than chiropractic to get somebody well. It took more than an MD to get them well. It took more than a psyche, doctor or therapist to treat them well. I thought if we could just talk, I think we can get somewhere. We can cut a lot of time and save a lot of agony for these patients. So in 2010, I integrated the Advanced Health Solutions, where I thought if I could just bring a few different good doctors with the right intention, with the right philosophy in mind, and we can all align on our goal, I could be that much more powerful. I could help more people. And here we are. Now, that was in 2010 when I integrated into multidisciplinary practice. And now we're in 65 locations. The philosophy, the core, which I stand for just as much as I did, 31 years ago, it carried us all through here. People will tell me, when are you going to retire? 31 years until you're not tired. And I said, well, I am tired of a lot of things, but what I'm not tired of is actually seeing patients. That I hope to do to the last breath I have. If you want Dr. Cal and my team of physicians to help you, all you gotta do is go to drcal.com and book an appointment. I cannot wait to serve you.